That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Donate to the Kamala Harris campaign now, despite the fact that they lost, because Kamala Harris is fundraising for a recount. I don't think she's actually fundraising to recount for herself so that she wins or anything like that, but this is what they're fundraising off of. And I think they're going to trick a lot of Democrats into thinking that Kamala's not giving up and she wants a recount so that she can try and beat Trump. She can't. But they're talking about House seats and likely Pennsylvania. Of course, with so many Democrat voters that believe the election was stolen, yeah, they're probably just going to think this is a means to try and get Kamala Harris to win. Of course, you may have seen that Kamala Harris is $20 million in debt, so she needs to raise a lot of money. A portion of that money raised is going towards recounts, which I assume maybe it will. I don't know what the point is of raising if your campaign lost, it's defunct, and you owe money. Just, I guess, tough luck to the people you owe money to. But there is a question about whether or not being in debt actually means she doesn't have money. And this is particularly frustrating for me. I've not seen it confirmed. Right now, the media is reporting that Kamala Harris is $20 million in debt, as you've heard, as I mentioned. Does that mean she has no money? I'll put it this way. How many of you have credit card debt? Do you also have money in the bank? Okay, so I can say you're $1,000 in debt, but you've got $5,000 in your savings. You're just not spending all of it right away on your credit card. Maybe you're making the minimum payments. That is to say, Kamala Harris may still have lots of money and lots of debt. You could have both. But right now, all of these woke leftists are losing it. In fact, one guy is calling for a J6. Okay, I don't know who this guy is or if he matters. I'm gonna pull this guy up because it's probably nothing. But Scott Pressler is like, please do not do this. He says, this leftist says something doesn't add up. Trump cheated. And then he goes on to say that they need a J6 peaceful protest. This is, this guy's joking. It's not real. Absolutely not a real post. But there are a lot of people saying that Trump cheated. Here's one that I think is actually real, where they're like, it's over. Trump and Elon are done. It's got 90,000 views. No matter who you voted for, those two are going to prison. You've got this lady saying there's no way Trump won. You can't be a student who gets Fs all the time, then one day get an A. No one's going to believe it. This stuff is still going on. Now, as Republicans are like, there's no significant fraud, we're moving on, there are questions about the election. And was there really fraud? Well, many on the right are saying, yeah, Democrats cheated, but Trump said we're going to make it too big to rig. They're showing this image, which I don't know what their source is for this, but you can see that a massive spike only for Democrats. It doesn't match any of the other counts in other jurisdictions. Sure, there's like a little bump here, and Republicans get a smaller bump because in urban areas it could be 70-30. But this is like 90-10. And many people pointed this out in the 2020 election. The only thing is, this time with their weird 3 a.m. spike, Republicans still won it. So the theory from a lot of people on the right is that they did try to cheat. And they just didn't cheat enough. It was too big to rig. They could not manufacture enough votes. Well, there's questions about what they're doing and how they're doing. And I do think it's fair to say that Democrats are engaged in massive ballot harvesting. They didn't stop. The issue is, you can't make fake votes. You can only harvest from people who actually exist. Maybe some are dead, but typically they're real people who just are low propensity voters that you've gotten to ballot harvest. They then collect your votes. This time, it didn't work. But did you notice that they waited a very long time to call certain states? That's why we were saying the whole time it needed to be so decisive on election day that they just call it rapid and we go home. And that's exactly what happened. I was shocked, mind you. I was absolutely shocked. But here's a story from Newsweek. Kamala Harris fundraising going towards Recount. Donations to Kamala Harris' presidential campaign are now being partially redirected towards a vote recount effort. When users go to donate to her campaign on ActBlue, the nonprofit fundraising platform, the fine print suggests that Vice President's campaign might be launching a recount effort. It reads, the first $41,300 and $15,000 from a person or multi-candidate committee will be allocated to the DNC. The next amount from a person PAC will be allocated to Harris for President's Recount account. There was little other information about what the Recount account is and what it plans to do. Donald Trump won the election. The speculation that I'm seeing is that this is for House seats, but it doesn't say that. They're literally just saying Kamala Harris wants a recount. Some of these states were won by narrow margins. In the closest race in Wisconsin, Trump won by around 30,000 votes. Harris conceded the election on Wednesday and said, "We must accept the results of this election." Newsweek reached out to Act Blue and Harris campaign to comment via email outside of regular working hours. It seems unlikely that the Harris campaign would call for a recount given she has already conceded the election. So what is this? I think she is exploiting people who don't pay attention, who believe the election was stolen, like these people and like this lady. Here you go.
I had this theory like a couple weeks ago. I said either Kamala's going to win and it's going to be like embarrassing amount, like landslide, which obviously didn't happen, or he's gonna win and we're gonna find out that he cheated. And it's like if I were to tell my mom in high school that I got an A on a test, she'd automatically be like, no, you didn't. Like when somebody normally gets an F and then they get an A, you're like, you get a little suspicious, And I just feel like,
yeah,
I don't know, or maybe I'm in denial.
You are in denial, lady, but at least you can admit it towards the end. Here's what happened. Donald Trump won in 2016. Hillary Clinton was trash. In 2020, Trump massively improved, jumping 13 million more voters. But Joe Biden, the Democrats, they ballot harvested like bosses. That's really what it comes down to. Procedural stuff. Universal mail-in voting, absentee voting, people locked in their houses. Skate parks were filled with sand. At Venice Beach, they dumped sand into the skate park so nobody would skate. The skateboarder still went and tried to figure it out anyway because you're not going to stop people from wanting to go outside. There was a guy surfing by himself and they chased him down. These people were pissed and they blamed Trump and then they ballot harvested. That worked, but Trump still massively improved and he won all of the bellwether districts. This time around, Trump also won all the bellwether districts, but he actually won this time. And so, as it goes, many people believe tracking for 2016, 20, and now, it doesn't look like Trump lost in 2020. How did he lose all the bellwethers and then lose? 2020 was an anomaly. You can believe in all the cheating, you can believe whatever you want, but I think it was largely ballot harvesting, which is legal in most places. Democrats know, just get the numbers, figure it out. Turn low propensity voters into voters. Trump did it the hard way. Let's take a look at some of the data. So we have this, I have these stories. The AFP fact check. They say it is not correct that there was fraud. Look at this. Let me show you some of these images. Maybe I can zoom in. You can see this better. This is an image that is from 538 that shows around 3 a.m. I believe it's a little after 4 a.m. There was a massive jump in votes for Joe Biden. Trump had been winning, and then all of a sudden, a massive spike. And everybody said, what is this? They say an estimated 381,000 votes had not yet been counted. AFP says the article is based on a graph from 538, which shows a surge around 6 a.m., between midnight and 6 a.m. on November 4th, leading to speculation online that votes had been artificially added. The graph was also shared on Instagram, Twitter, blah, blah, blah. The graph does not point to fraud. The graph was published by 538's election feed, and it was based on data from ABC News. As Korth pointed out, the sharp increase in votes is due to Milwaukee absentee ballot results announced at 3:56 a.m. on November 4th. There's nothing magical about these vote drops. Counties simply released a large batch of results all at once. Hey, they did the same thing this time, it seems, in Wisconsin. The issue that many people have, I don't think it's absolute proof of fraud. I believe it is evidence of potential fraud, but it might not be. I make this point quite a bit, so I'm going to have to explain it to all of the Media Matters people who are watching and banging on the table. Let's say that there's a guy who lives a block away from a grocery store, a bodega, a small corner store. And one day, somebody sees the guy fighting with the clerk. They're screaming. The next day, the clerk is dead. Guess what? That witness testimony of that fight is evidence. It's not proof, but it's evidence. Let's say they then find the same, they find shell casings for the same caliber of cartridge, of bullet, that was used in the murder of the bodega shopkeeper. Whoa. Well, now we got some real evidence, not proof. The point is, you might be like, hey, this guy was seen fighting. He also, at his house, we found the casings for the same caliber of bullet. That's evidence. Then it turns out the guy says, here's a photo of me, a video of me, a receipt for my travel. I was out of town that day. You got the wrong guy. Yeah, I didn't like the guy because he made my hot dog wrong, whatever it might be. This right here could be evidence, but it's not proof. The massive spike in votes in the wee hours of the morning, you don't see a comparable jump for Donald Trump. A teeny bit. The argument then is Milwaukee is 80%, 20%, or 85-15. Maybe, but you don't see that in any other ballot drops. Even right here, when you see this ballot dump come in, there is still a significant, whenever you see a jump, you see them comparable for both Democrat and Republican, because it makes no sense that there would be we're talking right here, 200,000 votes, and then Trump only got like 10,000. That's like 5%. That makes no sense. Okay. So it's weird when you look at data and you see in this graph that, yes, there was a large ballot dump from Milwaukee and almost every single one went to Joe Biden and not Donald Trump. I'm not saying that's proof of fraud. Not at all. I'm saying Democrats are certainly running elections in terrible ways, and it is not confidence building. Over a long period of time, those who voted day of are voting for Trump. And then all of a sudden, the last minute, they're like, look what we got. Guess what? If the Supreme Court says you cannot accept ballots after a certain amount of time, most of these votes are gone. This is a dirty game. Democrats know they can't get people to turn out to vote, so this is how they do it. Yeah, so it's not necessarily fraud, but you can call it something else. And it certainly did happen this time to help Joe Biden. They go out, they ballot harvest. Here's the game, my friends. They did not have COVID this time. They didn't have a means by which they could shut down the country and then make it extremely difficult for people to go outside. So they had no choice. Then they could implement mass universal mail-in voting and ballot harvest and collect all of these things. They still do have mail-in voting and early voting, and they still do ballot harvest. But Trump did it the hard way. Trump and the Republicans mobilized. I think many people who didn't vote in 2020 realized just how bad things got. Many of them flipped. I've got friends in my neighborhood who flipped. So there you go. I think the reality is Democrats is sore losers, but they're playing dirty games. Republicans are running the elections the hard way as proof. The proof is, again, I don't know the source on this one, but you can see Republicans don't have these anomalous boosts. They just turn out and vote. Democrats' anomalous boosts is suspect. I do want to give a shout out to one of my favorite posts, though, the Maduro Venezuela one, where when Venezuela saw a massive spike, which put Maduro over the edge, the U.S. was like, that's cheating. He clearly cheated. Look at this big data dump. It says the graph on the left does not represent any Venezuelan election data. It is just a copy of Wisconsin voting data shown in the right. It's not even real, by the way. Just a copy. Yeah, so that's the game they're playing. So that's not even real, by the way. So okay, I stand corrected. That's I thought there was something suspicious about it. But my point ultimately is when foreign countries engage in such weird ballot whatever, I don't know what you call whatever you want, we accuse them of wrongdoing. And I'm not saying it's actual wrongdoing. I'm saying it's the U.S. government using that to its advantage for political power and political purposes. And that's why I will stress again, I'm not saying it's proof of fraud. I'm just saying that Democrats engage in elections in ways that I would call untoward. People don't expect ballot harvesting weeks in advance to fluff and pad the numbers. If Democrats don't want to show up to the polling place, they don't care enough to vote, and they shouldn't be voting. And that is, most people don't care. Stop trying to force your unpopular party on the American people. But to them, it's more important to be a Democrat, I guess. So it is what it is. I'll wrap it up there, my friends. Let's give a shout out to Kamala Harris and her Recount fund. We got more segments coming up later today. Stick around, and we will see you all shortly.